And the issue with Whitlock is that he's always chasing some controversy,
Yes.
going out of his way to provoke one without really having a grounded sense of where his ideological. He would tell you he has a very grounded sense that he cares about
The biblical worldview.
biblical worldview, but that doesn't map onto a worldview
Yeah.
in a way that makes any sense at all. And he's always just sort of digging, and occasionally, not occasionally, often will dig something out that's like amazing and makes a great argument. But I've always said he doesn't have an overview. And
yeah, he's not fully realized. And maybe he needs to, he's only been doing Fearless Daily 3 years, 2 years. Maybe he needs to do it another 5 years, and it crystallizes eventually.
I mean, if he doesn't attack everybody first.
I was reading Rush Limbaugh's book, The Way Things Ought to Be. And he was talking about, like, I have this array of a bunch of media books I got, and a bunch of, like, I love autobiographies too. So and since I was thinking about a piece that I wanted to do on him, and juxtaposing him and Tucker Carlson's recent choices, and so I said, I should see if he had a book. So I went and pick up the book.
Nice.
And it's interesting, and he's talking about basically his perspective and how over time that repetition of being in a small, cold room alone with a microphone, provoking reactions, and sometimes not getting the reaction that he wanted or that he thought he was going to get, and how that sort of forced him to, like, mold his sort of life political philosophy. And the repetition of just doing it daily just made him sharper. And to some people more repugnant. but
Sure.
I think, especially if you're going to do a point of view show of any type where you're talking using your opinions, you're going to definitely inspire some people. Some people are gonna tune into this and they're gonna hate my face or my voice.
I think arouse people arouse reactions is a more accurate term.
Definitely, it's gonna arouse reactions, and he realized, Limbaugh realized that that first and foremost, it was more important that he did a show that aroused those reactions first. That was first and foremost.
No surprise.
And sort of getting his coherent world together was something that his harder core people, the people who were with him daily, would put together by, sitting under his learning tree over time. And I think perhaps a guy like Whitlock just needs the reps to sort of, like, put it together and work out his own contradictions, because there's plenty of them.
I don't know that he wants to. And the thing that he would say, which I think would be fair, he's actually an excellent broadcaster. He's really, really good at just monologuing and interviewing too, like which that surprised me.
Well, he was a sports talk radio host.
And he does,
he did a TV as well.
Right, yes. And when he throws around that he was a journalist, like, he does seem to have, like, actual journalistic skill.
I don't disagree. I have trouble with calling what he's doing now journalism.
No. But you see echoes of those skills, though.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
And it's just like the problem with him is, like what I was saying before, he's become such a such a pro wrestling character, and
Mhm.
now he's just taking shots at everybody willy nilly. He doesn't even, first, and he'll turn on people all the
Mhm.
time.
It's his Royce White fallout.
Right. And initially he was on Shannon Sharp after he left Skip, and then he started making fun of Skip, and now he's complimenting Shannon Sharp all the time. It just sounds very confused.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, I got to give Shannon props." It's like, I get it. He's saying that he's calling it down the middle, but it just comes off as somebody who will attack you 1 minute and then praise you another. And this is the thing that's been the claim that's been made against him on a
Mhm.
personal level by so many
Sure.
people. He's definitely left a trail of destruction, and I think you and I are in no position to judge here.
Mhm.
Like, I actually relate to that personality type. And as somebody who I've also many times fired off at people who are peers simply on the principle that I didn't like what they were saying, and then I've had to reap the consequences of, like, oh shit, I fucked up this relationship.
Sure.
It comes off as a little bit unstable, right? I know I can look at myself in the past and do that and go, oh wow. Now lots of people do this now. People take shots at each other in the same lane all the time in media and in sports and everything. But it gives people ammo to say he's just a bitter person who hates black people and wants to attack them, when that's not actually, if you look at the points he's making, he's almost always raising a fair point.
I
Almost
think
always.
I don't think it's so much. I think that's a cheap punch.
Lots of
That
people taking it.
Yeah, but it's a cheap one. And I didn't find. I watched the full Whitlock and Stephen A interaction. I don't find either one all that interesting
The you mean their episodes, the
about
specifically?
about each other.
Yes, yeah, they right.
I found it kind of blah. There were entertaining moments, but blah. What was interesting was in the nearly 2 hours that Stephen A dedicated to Whitlock assassination,
he never answered his
and he
claim.
never said he was wrong.
Hmm. He just made a lot of fucking noise to get you off the trail, and had this waiting in his back pocket the whole time in case
Yeah.
of emergency break glass, in case you motherfucker starts to close in on me. I'm going to push the nuke button as a way of making a lot of noise and creating a diversion to get away from the fact that that dude caught me lying.
Yeah, and I don't know that he did. It certainly seems like he did lie about this. But
Something's off. Marcellus said, I'm not
yeah,
saying he's lying, but he certainly didn't tell the truth.
yeah, yeah. I think that's well said. That's absolutely well said. Yeah,
Something
yeah.
doesn't add up. And how come there's no pictures?
Of yeah,
There's just one picture.
and don't you think Stephen A. of all people, a guy who logs as much TV time around basketball and talking basketball as he has, don't you think he'd want to flaunt some of that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's and for those who don't understand, it's Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith are peers who were fighting back and forth and still are currently about whether Stephen A. Smith actually played basketball at Winston-Salem State, HSBU, historically Black College.
Like,
I always get the acronym wrong. So, and Stephen A. claimed that he played basketball there until he broke his kneecap. And it's pretty unclear whether he actually did or not.
mm-hmm. And then claimed that what's his Clarence Big
Uh,
House Gaines.
Big House Gaines, yeah, his coach. And I think that I know, I don't know for a fact, but that's the most
Outlandish,
fictitious thing I've ever heard.
the most what sounding thing?
Fictitious.
Yes. That he made 27 straight jump shots and
It's
Big House Gaines in a high school scrimmage.
it just wouldn't happen.
and Big House Gaines offered him a scholarship on the spot. That's a fucking lie.
Yeah, that's not how scholarships work. In it's not how scholarships worked in the 80s or the
And
90s.
nobody's called this motherfucker out on that
Well,
until
it's
now.
not been a center spoke to his rise.
But you have to think that especially these NBA
Yeah.
dudes, they know
Well,
he's bullshitting.
also, it he spent a lot of airtime with Jalen Rose,
Mm-hmm.
who called out Skip Bayless
But
while he
didn't
was on air with him
yes.
with something very similar.
Mm-hmm. Yes. By the
And
way, go ahead. Sorry.
which we actually talked about on another live stream.
We did, and I've always said to this day, even though Jalen downplays it now, he was also giving Stephen A shit too. Like that episode was not straight. Yes, it was Jalen torpedoed Skip, and I thought rightfully so. But it was more of a three-way argument, and Skip and Stephen A were kind of on the same side of it. It has been sort of this happens all the time, and it drives me crazy. Something gets remembered one way, and it's but no, right. He could have at any time pulled like fucking just nuked dude right on the spot, just like flamethrowered him. Been like, oh yeah,
I,
what did you do at Winston-Salem State, bitch?
well, I think after he did that with Skip, my guess is that behind the scenes backlash,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it actually led him back on air to come back and essentially apologize and make up with him, I think that probably is the thing that prevented that.
Well, and also Mina Kimes said on Dan Le Batard's show, and she said this tactfully, but she said that when you go into First Take now, that Stephen A is like he's
King of the castle.
the king. Yeah, you know how far not to go in challenging him,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was an interesting admission, but it's pretty obvious. Only JJ Redick seemed to to cross over that line. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I think you can sum up Whitlock, and it's unfortunate. Much like Jordan Peterson,
Oh,
he creates a persona for himself that makes it easy for people to take surface level shots at him. And he also seems to not be fully composed as far as what his actual values are, while loudly trumpeting a value system that is much more simplistic and sort of inadequate than what you think you're getting. But in his defense, so much of his basic instinct as a commentator is that I think if I could sum him up in a nutshell, it's that he feels that the infantilization of the black athlete actually hurts black people. I do think there is an actual ethical streak to where he's coming from. And all these people are like, oh, he's just a coon. He's just a sellout. He loves attacking black people. And, you get your Rick Stroms and your, always default to this. He's just somebody that white conservative racists love. So he's tap dancing for them, which I think is horseshit. I think he feels genuinely, and I can't speak for him, that making all of these accommodations for black people in the name of a progressive, quote unquote, value system that is antithetical to Christianity is destructive. And I also feel kind of like, I can't speak for you, but I know I've had this temptation many times. When you see somebody in your same lane who you think is a clown and a fraud, he likes to take shots at him, and I think he recognizes that Stephen A. has actually done leaps and bounds more damage to black people, I think, and I would I haven't he
Mm,
hasn't said that, but he recognizes Stephen A. as a poisonous snake in the grass, and I think he doesn't respect his journalistic credentials or his acumen about sports. So he's basically like, "Fuck you, you're not in my league," and that's where this comes from. Stephen A. is a very, very duplicitous